A girlfriend kissed and spent the night with another man. How to forgive and forget. For the past few weeks, I have struggled to communicate and showed my passive-aggressive side to where I made it obvious. I was guilty after it was pointed out, concerned, and talked about it. They soon realized that it was my insecurity for my girlfriend to hang out with Jeremy lately, because of my straightforward assumptions for what she could get into and what Jeremy could do to her. Sex, kiss, rape, kill. It was torture. I hated thinking about it, but it bubbled inside of me instead of letting it out, which I feared could impact my girlfriend's mental health that could lead to self-harm. I went to Lexi's house to hang out. We did a tarot reading and went to the mall. At the mall, I witnessed a red heart from my girlfriend to Jeremy in a text. My mood dropped heavy. She saw how frustrated she was and got worried. We got back to Lexi's in silence. Lexi and my girlfriend knew my energy was off and called me out for it. I lied that I was fine to relieve them, but they didn't believe me. My girlfriend asked if my mood was because of her. I told her that I will tell her later. She got sad. I soon saw how distressed my girlfriend was, so I lied to her by telling her it isn't her fault. I said that it was just a mood swing, and I didn't know anything of why I was feeling this way. Later, me and Lexi talked in private because of how obvious my emotions were, so Lexi pulled me out for a conversation. I told her everything about my thoughts on Jeremy and my worries. She told me how my thoughts are valid and how she agreed with me about Jeremy, especially the time when she had met him in person reading his tarots. She didn't like the energy given off by him. I felt relieved that I wasn't the only one thinking about it. Later, I was dropping my girlfriend off. She then emotionally pushed me to the point where I explained to her about my insecurities in a passive, calm way. She was able to understand it first and considered my feelings. I came up with solutions that could make us both happy by telling her she could visit Jeremy as long as she was with someone else. This didn't work out later in the future. As I got home from school to visit my girlfriend, she had realized my mood swing again. I told her about my toxic thoughts and that I make unhealthy assumptions. The argument was toxic at the kitchen table. She saw where I was coming from and wished that I haven't been thinking like that. She couldn't stand my expressed thoughts. She went out for a walk around the neighborhood and said she would be back in an hour. I let her leave. Time passed by and I was anxiously worried about my girlfriend's safety. I dressed warm and went out to look for her. I started sprinting, passing the bridge her father had built for the golf course and into Kent Trails. I sprint towards the end of Kent Trails into the intersection and ran up the hill, running into High Point Church and out and back into the neighborhood. I soon find her skating on her small skateboard towards me while on the phone with her sister. I was silent, trying to find the words to say to her. I then held her and told her my stories. She forgave me and skated away for a little bit and back. She went inside, and she was magically happy and normal. It was hard to believe that she got over it that quickly and easily. I wasn't my normal self. Lily and her love companion, Izzy, came home from watching the sunset. I was still feeling down, so I went upstairs for some time alone. I had felt lonely, so I came a little bit downstairs to hear that they were talking about me and how my girlfriend was feeling. I was embarrassed, but I wanted to hear more out of my curiosity. So I tiptoed silently downstairs to sit on the couch that was visible to the kitchen where they were discussing. I wanted to make it obvious that I was in presence, but I also wanted to hear what they had to say. They soon realized that I was there. The whole time. Things were awkward, so I went upstairs into her room and lay on the ground beside her bed. Izzy came into my room to comfort me and talk me out of being selfish. Lily soon later came into the room to talk, and then my girlfriend. I felt like a freaking child. Why am I like this? They talked about how I need to communicate better. I did. I communicated on how I didn't trust this Jeremy guy. They listened to me and understood. They left me alone and I stayed in the same spot and fell asleep. She soon talked to her therapist, and her therapist told her how it is unhealthy because of how Lily and I could be unavailable to hang out with Jeremy. Basically, how we weren't always there. So I trusted her therapist and allowed her to go visit Jeremy as long as she had her own boundaries. The following day, I came to her from school. She tells me how her day was with Jeremy and how it made her so happy. She saw through me how unhappy I was hearing her day with Jeremy. I expressed how jealous I was and how I wish I could make her happy just like how Jeremy made her. I told her about my assumptions excluding the sex, kiss, yada yada because of how uncomfortable I was, spilling those out. Basically, I told her about my toxic thoughts on what Jeremy could do to her and how it can't be helped. This hurt her. She left the room giving me space. After 10 minutes, I came downstairs not knowing where she was until I found her in her own car in the garage where she had cut herself. I blamed myself so freaking much. I hated myself for putting her in that situation because of my toxic thoughts. This was getting out of hand. She called her friend Lexi and she came to support her as I waited inside to come up with things I should say to her as an apology. Lexi is a nice person. She came inside to comfort me and told me how it was okay. She understood that I was traumatized and self-blameful. My girlfriend came inside, and I told her how we should start over. I was starting to think that my assumptions were invalid and unnecessary, that I had nothing to worry about. The following next day that I could remember, we went to Lexi's house for an accurate tarot reading, and I had a great time until Jeremy had to call from a girlfriend to express his emotions. She was on the phone with him for hours, and I had been sitting in Lexi's roommate's room, listening to other people's tarot readings. I gradually got frustrated and had to sit in the living room by myself downstairs. Lexi came down to talk to me about how she knows what I was thinking. After 10 minutes, she went to grab a White Claw and asked if I could have one despite how angry I was feeling and how I needed to drink. An hour later, my girlfriend is finished with her phone call and she had an emergency of going to Jeremy to comfort him. I freaking destroyed my throat with more alcohol from the remaining White Claw. We left in a hurry to Jeremy's apartment. During the car ride up, my girlfriend was stroking my neck to comfort my drunkenness. I was frustrated to take in her physical emotions since she was seeing another man to comfort. What I needed the most was her to be with me tonight. I remember clearly what I did. I was so freaking frustrated that I took off the metal piece from the White Claw hand and broke it in half into a sharp piece and held it to my face. She took it from me and I showed a frown to trick her into thinking I wasn't thinking clearly as a drunk person, but really, I knew what I was doing. Clear as day. We arrived, and before she left, I grabbed her arm and whispered to her, "Remember, boundaries." We came home and I unpleasantly vomited in the blue baking bowl, about 5 times. I rested on the couch and waited until my girlfriend came back home. She came home an hour or 2 later. My head hurt, and I didn't go to school that morning. Instead, I was virtually learning through Zoom. She had asked the same morning if I had remembered anything about trying to hurt myself in the car last night. I lied, telling her that I didn't remember anything when I really did. The same morning, I woke up from being drunk last night. Conflict was going around the house. Between Lily and my girlfriend, going on about how they weren't taking care of their duties. I felt the need to cooperate. So I insisted on helping them out by going to the local store to pick up pineapples and shish kebab sticks. As I came home, everything was much calmer, no more conflicts. I helped put the toppings onto the sticks: chicken, onions, pineapples, yellow peppers, red peppers, and mushrooms. We sauced up the sticks and attempted to grill them. They kept sticking to the grill and going up in flames and burning the whole sticks. After that, we served it with rice to Taylor and Shelby, who later came over for dinner. We laugh remembering the conversation on how Taylor getting kneed in the face or something and how his opponent sticks his finger up his butt during soccer matches to throw him off. I sat there quietly having social anxiety. Didn't know how to come in. Johnny came later and we served everyone cake as a dessert. We all went into the piano room where people played. I, myself, Went upstairs into my girlfriend's room to finish my project for school. As I finished, Johnny came in and talked about his relationship with Kai. He was struggling. My girlfriend came in wondering where I was, and we comforted and reassured him. We came downstairs and talked. Johnny left. We decided to dress in our partner's clothes. I dressed in one of my girlfriend's green dresses for the jokes. Taylor and Shelby left. Me and my girlfriend made out. Jeremy called. My girlfriend declined because she wanted to be with me during the time, despite how she knows about the conversation with Jeremy being long. We continue to make out again until Jeremy called the second time. I was nice this time by insisting and letting her take the phone call. However, I stayed and listened because of how curious I was about this guy and had to say, it got emotional because of how his dad was about to die and how sad it was. I thought it was too personal, so I quietly left the room. I waited in the piano room and played the piano quietly. A couple of minutes later, she runs down and borrows her sister's car because she didn't have enough gas. She didn't even have time to let me know where she was going. I was starting to feel insecure, uncomfortable, jealous, and resentful. I didn't let that frustration hit me, so I trusted that she would come home later. An hour later, after napping, I found out she's not home yet. I am in a panic stage and wonder if anything has happened to her. I called her about 5 times. No answer. I woke up Lily and explained how worried I am. Lily called. No answer. We are both extremely worried. I felt bad for asking her sister to come with me to Jeremy's. We are on the way there as it rains. More than halfway to Jeremy's, my girlfriend called to reassure us that everything was okay and that she was spending the night with Jeremy. That moment hit me the most. I felt so uneasy. Never felt this uneasiness in my life. Never. I went back to my girlfriend's house without a choice, but to trust her intentions. I went to school the next day feeling a little sick, so I got my mom to call me out of school, and I went to my girlfriend's house to rest up a little. She came home and told me how sorry she was. I told her that she wasn't sorry. Mistake on my part for telling her that. I wouldn't think that would trigger her. She left in a hurry to Jeremy for another reason that I forgot. Something relating to getting his car. I am angry. I call on myself and grab my stuff and left. Texting her, I will be waiting for her somewhere else. I couldn't stand what was going on. Later in the shower, I had cut myself because of how much I couldn't think and cope. We went to work after that. Very busy during the day at work. At 7:15 p.m., my girlfriend calls me during work. I answer it unconditionally, even though it's been very busy. Over the phone, she's crying, and it was hard for me to understand her. She needed me. I asked my boss if I could go since it was an emergency. He is a nice boss, so he let me go, clocking me out. At 7:30 p.m., I speed all the way to her home as fast as I can, illegally passing cars with my emergency lights on. I enter her home running up to the bathroom to see her covered in a great amount of blood. She had cut herself all over. I broke down. Was hard for me to see this, but I had to force myself to stay calm and clean her up. Some cuts were dangerously wide. I attempted to call 911, but she stopped me. I saw the knife that Jeremy gave her, sore throat in the bathtub out of frustration. She called her sister, and she came home to help me clean and left in a hurry. She informed me on what to do to take care of her. My girlfriend was distressed, so I did everything she wished she wanted to do in the house. Instead of baking, we set up a tent in living room and watched a little bit of enchantment. The following day, I brought her to my place to grab my homework that I needed to finish. We took a nap alongside each other and woke up. It was silent at first. She told me that she needed to tell me something, and she hoped I would hold her hand. No. I kissed Jeremy. At first, quietness and silence. I said, "I wish you hadn't done that," in a calm tone, but then it grew to me like someone had lost an arm in the movie, and it took them seconds to realize the pain. What the F, my girlfriend? Everything went down to a shit show. She was begging me to hit her. I refused, and she panicked and wanted to hurt herself. I was starting to realize that and had to calm myself a little bit for the sake of her weak mentality. She locked herself in the bathroom, which had scared me because of my 2 razor blades in the drawers that I used to cut myself. Thankfully, she was just on the phone call with Lily. I didn't know what to do, so I called Lexi. I told her what was happening. I was getting anxious and scared if she was hurting herself. I opened the door with a toothpick, and was relieved that she was sitting on the ground with the phone in her hand. I had to censor myself and give what she wanted. I told her that I wanted to be with her. Asked her if she could stay with me as her sister was against the idea. My girlfriend then came into my room and kept begging me to hit her. She had pushed me to a certain point where I wanted to give what she wanted. I hit her. The moment I did, it tortured me. I swear my heart stopped for 3 seconds. I felt emotional pain when my girlfriend was crying but laughing at the same time. Unbelievable. Her sister came later and separated us. I wanted to talk to her sisters, so we talked privately. I expressed how angry I was. I freaking told you guys that something was off about this guy. I trusted you that you trusted him. But the F do I do? Lily agreed that I was right and comforted me. I couldn't believe that my girlfriend had done that. All the times I'd given her ideas to be careful and have boundaries. She even said it herself on how she had boundaries when I reminded her of the time she had a fantasy with a teacher, but she failed that boundary herself. I told Lily how much I wanted to hurt this guy and how I should talk to him. She talked me out of it because of how much I could trigger him, which I didn't give an F if I did. Lily was on a phone call with her love companion where she had it with my girlfriend, but then traded it to me. I talked to him and he told me something that I had forgotten despite how angry and emotional I at the time. I spilled my utensils for my mug and attempted to throw it. He called me down a little bit into not throwing it. He told me that I needed a healthy mindset to talk to her. Calmed myself down after a while and was ready to talk to my girlfriend. I still wanted to be with her. She entered the room with her sister, and I made an ultimatum that I soon later regret. It's either you choose me or Jeremy. She chose me, but I wasn't satisfied. I wanted her to cut ties with him right away by calling him and letting him know what's up. Cutting ties completely. She agreed. I asked her to give me the whole story of what happened exactly. She demonstrated how he was sitting down and she was holding his head. He looked at her and she looked back at him. He asked if he could kiss her and she paused and said, yes. It was hard for me to hear this, but I was itching to know more. Sex, rape, kiss, kill, or my past assumptions. One of them was valid and I needed to know more. I asked if she had moved her head towards his, or he moved it towards hers. She said they both had moved in halfway. She explained that she was holding him and sleeping alongside him in bed. I hated hearing this, but I let my calm state of mind take control for the sake of our relationship. I told her that she needed to earn my trust back and she agreed. We stayed together for the rest of the time until she reminded her love for me I would bring up the Jeremy situation. I totally forgot about her mental state, so she got distressed. I hugged her and comforted her. She saw that I was doing that because of her distressed state. She was right. Throughout the day, it was a love, kiss, having fun together, then angry, repeat. We realized that we do need space. I don't do well with space, but I also wasn't doing well with being with her when reminded with love. She showed a lot of affections and it disgusted me because of how I imagined myself as Jeremy. The space we had apart felt like a long time. I went home laying on my bed, listening to music for a while. I get up later to post a Quora about how to forgive my girlfriend for kissing someone else. I get these answers of how I should break up with her, forgive and move on, and ridiculous answers such as kissing 2 other girls. I don't want to break up with her, but I also can't forgive and move on that easily. I soon later found out from Lily that my girlfriend had talked to Jeremy about how upset they both were. Why am I the one to make them both upset? Why do I feel blamed? That is what I ask myself. I FaceTimed to a friend and told him what was going on. He came over and comforted me because of how emotional I was. I appreciated his support very much. I like him. His name is Luke Barnum. I set up an alarm to wake up and call my girlfriend tomorrow about church. I went to bed, getting 5 hours of sleep. Waking up, I called my girlfriend and asked if she still wanted me church. She wanted me there for a presence that could comfort her, but she didn't want me next to her at the same time. Confusing, but understandable. I struggled getting out of bed, so I lay for a while and showered later. I know I was going to be late, but it didn't matter since I wasn't going to be next to her. She texts me as I'm putting on clothes that she couldn't make it and asked me to enjoy the service. I told her that I hadn't even left the house and if I could talk to her. I arrived at her place and asked if I could talk to her. We talked downstairs. The conversation started out with a question. What would you want me to do if I kissed another girl? Basically, she explained what was self-explanatory to what she wanted me to do. I then talked to her. I understand that I have been hard on you lately. You've chosen me and I just turned the other way. I'm willing to forgive you for what you've done and move on past it because of how much I love you. But I won't be able to forget about it. Let's forgive each other and move on to greater terms than before. Then she agreed, but she couldn't forgive herself for what she did. I had to ask her some questions that I have been itching to know about. You chose me, right? When you asked me to stay with you forever a couple of times in the tent, were you telling me that because you were afraid that I was going to leave you for what you did? It was a mistake, right? Do you regret it? And how much do you regret it? I heard you talk to Jeremy. Could you? Please tell me what you said. If you don't mind? One of the answers left me a little frustrated. She couldn't decide if she regretted it or not. She couldn't find the definition of regret herself, and I had to help her find it. She explained to me how she lacks the self-love and receives any love given to her. So I had asked her if I could hold her hand and hug her. She refused because she had thought that she didn't deserve it. What the F? I thought she had trouble saying no to those who offer love to her. Her brother arrived later. Taylor Plummer knew everything that was going on. Me and Lily had explained to him the situation. My girlfriend didn't want Taylor to miss out on what he was supposed to do that day, but he insisted because he doesn't really have anything planned, but to destroy his shed house. She randomly got frustrated, so she ran upstairs and looked in the drawers where the kitchen knives had been, but I had already hid them from her. There were still smaller ones, but she didn't bother. Me and Taylor stopped her. Taylor hugged her, but she didn't hug back. I just watched, not knowing what to do anymore. I felt hopeless. Seeing her act like this makes me blame myself. She then went upstairs. Me and Taylor couldn't trust her at this point, so we followed her. We waited for her outside, and she decided to then shower. So me and Taylor waited downstairs until I heard a notification from my girlfriend's phone that she had left downstairs. It was the longest text message I've ever seen in my life. I gave it to Taylor to read without having the chance to read it myself. My girlfriend then later came out of the bathroom and had to get checked by Taylor to see if she had cut herself. She was doing her makeup. She always puts on makeup when she doesn't feel good about herself. Taylor was convincing my girlfriend to come over later for dinner, but my girlfriend kept refusing. I wanted to go to Taylor's, so I tried convincing my girlfriend alongside Taylor. She finally accepted. Taylor then left the house in relief. My girlfriend then runs downstairs and holds the extra knives that I hadn't hid away. I got to the point where I had to chase her while she had the knife in her hands. She was laughing like it was a game. It wasn't. This was extremely dangerous. I screamed at her to stop. She frowned and told me not to scream at her. She eventually gave me the knife and went back upstairs. I had the green knife and went upstairs with her. She laid down and rested, then cried. I patted her head and stopped to let her rest. She pulled me down beside her. For a while, I held her. She remembered that she didn't deserve me to hold her or touch her. She pushed my arm away. After a couple minutes later, she randomly got up and went downstairs again, going after the scissors. I begged her to stop as I was holding her hands. The situation was getting dangerous. She then stopped and realized how much she was putting me through. She gave it to me and leaned into me. I didn't care how long she leaned into me. I kept my stance as long as I could to keep her up with me. To a certain point, I had thought she had fallen asleep despite how long she had been leaning into me. She told me she was tired, so I asked her to go upstairs and I will be there soon. As she was going upstairs to her room, I hid the rest of the sharp objects somewhere else. I entered the room, seeing her laying down. I sat upwards beside her, traumatized for what just happened. She pulled me down beside her and allowed me to hold her. I fell asleep after she did. I woke up before she did. I felt much better, in all honesty. Her body was on top of my arm, making it very numb, but I didn't care. I love her. Her phone kept ringing from her notifications. I picked it up to look at it. It was just a group chat of friends she made from Pine Rest. I took her phone and silenced it and looked at her past text messages with Jeremy. I put it down and tried to forget about it. I woke her up with an insane amount of kisses on her face for fun. I made myself look happy for her sake. If I'm happy, my girlfriend's happy. I was honestly happy after that nap, though. She got much better as well. We showed lots of affections towards each other. We got up to finish her duties. We brought her dog Asher on a walk to get him to go to the bathroom. On our walk, we held hands to show more affection. Within later, decided to go to a sushi bowl salad place that also sells boba. Poki Poki. She had a large bowl with salmon, crab and tofu. Had a regular bowl with salmon and crab. We ate together and had fun. I offered her boba since she was craving a drink. I couldn't use Apple Pay for some reason, so she paid for it, and I then mowed her back a little extra. I drove us back to the house using her mini co-op. On the way back, we were vibing to music. I realized how much I was starting to have fun again and saw how forgiveness can be a cure to our toxic relationship. We then attempted to bake churros. We almost burned the house down because of the lid on top of the oil pot. As soon as I opened the lid, fire exploded in front of my face. I have never seen that big of a fire that closed before. I didn't get burned, but when my girlfriend tried opening it, she got burned. Something not serious though. I washed her arm in cool water and put Neosporin on it for pain relief and had it wrapped in a cool water towel. We came to Taylor's house late. He grilled a steak and chicken. We had dinner and watched a scary movie called Sun. We then had ice cream where I had vanilla, scoop of peanut butter, and graham crackers. I had a lot of fun at Taylor's because of how comfortable I was, not being myself with my girlfriend. I hugged Taylor, reminding him how much safer I felt being with him. And how much he made my day. He's literally a savior. I appreciate him a lot. We went home finding Izzy and Lily making noodles, seaweed, and tofu to eat. We cleaned up a little bit and went downstairs. Lily got frustrated with my girlfriend for not taking care of the pot mess. I didn't want my girlfriend to be disturbed, so I went upstairs to clean it up. As I got downstairs, it was dark. I find her on the single couch from the back of the basement. She's on the phone with Jeremy. I stay calm and remember the time I insisted on her not being on the phone with him. My first instincts are to not play nice. So I came over beside her to listen to what Jeremy had to say. She disliked my actions, so she moved away into the bathroom. I am furious. I ran upstairs to Izzy and Lily to find out what was going on and told her about our solution of keeping her from Jeremy and having Lily be there for Jeremy instead. She goes down there and comes back up not too long, telling us how she couldn't do it since she was beforehand frustrated for no reason. What the actual F? I go back downstairs to my girlfriend, hearing how Jeremy was telling her how sad he is because of her. F. This. I stayed calm. I planned this in my head carefully before saying it. I had a plan to tell Jeremy that he didn't ruin our relationship and that it was okay even though he totally did ruin our relationship. Just wanted him out of the picture ASAP. I said, "Jeremy." My girlfriend panicked and muted herself and questioned me in an angry tone. "Jeremy, what was that?" "I am so sorry." He ends the call on her and my girlfriend gets frustrated at me. Why am I always to be blamed? I felt so guilty. Walking up to Izzy and Lily at the kitchen table across from them. I gaze into the kitchen table and daydream. I begged Izzy to talk to her because of how much I trust him. He was an experienced dater and endured his partners cheating on him in the past. Later, my girlfriend had asked me to leave with disgrace of what I had just done. I didn't bother arguing anymore. I followed out, but I forgot my other phone somewhere. She tried helping me find it, but then I found it in her car with the use of Find My Phone. I found it and attempted to leave. She stops me midway and pulls me into the piano room to talk. She didn't want me to leave, so I stayed a little bit. She sat down with me, blaming herself with me. I comforted her. She soon later went back upstairs for who knows what. I assumed she tried hurting herself. Her sister was stopping her as I talked to Izzy. They came downstairs and interrupted my good conversation from Izzy. So we decided to go downstairs. We talked and I explained to him about my timeline with this relationship. My timeline was very happy alongside my girlfriend until Jeremy was involved, as he decided a decision I had to make to break up with my girlfriend for what she is doing to me. Is she insulting and teasing my feelings at this point? I came upstairs after being interrupted by my girlfriend and Lily again. I went upstairs and sat down as my girlfriend washed the dishes and cleaned the kitchen. I couldn't handle the awkward environment, so I went upstairs and broke down in the bathroom. After I was done, my girlfriend was waiting for me outside the bathroom and pulled me into the piano room once more. She wanted to talk despite how she knew I was crying. She asked me to communicate more. Are you serious? I have never communicated more than ever. They pushed me to communicate in the past for bubbling it all up and I did. I exposed my feelings to her, seeing Jeremy, and look what happened. She still kissed him. I was getting annoyed at this point. I asked her what was Jeremy's point of calling her. She had said that he felt sad and guilty after my girlfriend had dropped a bombshell on him. Her finishing the ultimatum I had regretfully given her. Okay. This was irritating. Why the F would he tell her that? He's literally guilt-tripping her. I tell her what I was thinking and she thinks she understands, but she doesn't. She doesn't care from how I saw it. All she sees is that he's hurt because of her. F's sakes. What do I do to convince her about what she should be thinking? It was going in cycles, beginning to become pointless at this point. I stood up and she panicked. Hey, what are you doing? I love you. How? What are you doing? I love you. It hurt of me hearing that from her. I asked her if we could have space to rethink what has been happening. She jumps into conclusions of me breaking up with her. I did plan on that, but I didn't want to. I want to be in a relationship with her. She breaks down into tears and tries her best to convince me that she wanted me. She chose me. I sat down and explained to her the reason of why. I was hurt when she called Jeremy. She couldn't take it anymore. She broke up with me instead and told me to leave. I left. As I was on the road, I called her parents, but they didn't pick up. Calmly drove all the way back home. I texted Izzy, and she was okay. He hinted that she wasn't doing well. I called Izzy. Her sister explained to me the situation. My girlfriend cut herself. She was crying and laughing at the same time. Her dad held her down. Later, her mother called me. She sounded devastated. I tried my best to relax her. She explained to me what had happened, and I am uptight. Is she okay? Told me how much she wanted to see me. I wanted to fulfill her wish. I asked her mother if I could talk to my girlfriend to make her a little happy. She allowed me. I'm on the phone with my girlfriend. She was happy to hear my voice, and she told me how much she loves me. I followed the conversation by telling her how much I loved her back, and how much it's important for her to get professional help. She agreed and gave the phone back. Her parents reassured me her safety, and we ended each other's call. I went to bed for school tomorrow. Next morning, I couldn't get up for school. I'm freaking devastated. Wondered if my girlfriend was doing okay. Probably not. I called my mom to have to call school and tell them I was sick. Successful on that part. I texted Lily to find her situation with my girlfriend. She told me that my girlfriend was sent to the hospital overnight and now transferring to Pine Rest. I got a call from Taylor and I explained to him what had happened overnight. He told me how I should take care of myself and get my life together by going to school. Too late. First thing I did after waking up in the morning was to cut myself on the wrist. This time was the deepest I had ever cut myself. It was deep enough to open my skin widely and I panicked. Everything was turning back to the point where I had almost passed out. So I laid down. I don't do well with blood, but my way of coping was to cut myself after what has just gone down. I find that if my girlfriend's doing well, then I will be doing well. Throughout the day, I follow up on phone calls and calling others. Mr. Plumber, Todd, explained to me how he saw the situation and how Jeremy was involved. He told me that he was going to take care of Jeremy with resources. Nothing dangerous. I assumed from his tone. Everyone was calling to check up on me. Johnny, Lexi, Lily, her parents. I appreciated the support. I soon later get a call from my girlfriend and find her explaining to me how she didn't mean to break up with me, and how it doesn't count. She showed a lot of affections and emotions through the phone. I encouraged her to learn to say no and become more selfish. I told her to stay strong for us. I had hoped she was motivated. She agreed with me. And we ended the call lovely. I was gradually beginning to become relieved. I checked Schoolology to see if I had any schoolwork to take care of. Took care of some work. Johnny called and brought me out to eat. In an Olive Garden. I explained to him my timeline, which took up the entire time until closing. He was shocked about what was going on because nobody has really been telling him anything. Johnny helped me through my sad disappointments. I appreciated him. As he drove me home, I saw the full bright moon. I wish my girlfriend had been here to see this. I was dropped off at my house and went to bed for the following school day. The day finished and I am still absolutely restless. Next day, I actually got up for school. I have never hated going to school this much. School day is finally over. I went to track practice and got out. I sat home and literally did nothing but think about what has happened over the past week. I repeated the scenarios and got depressed. Taylor and Lily called to see how I was doing. My girlfriend then called. We told each other about our days. Jeremy came up on my end. I knew something felt unfinished, so I brought it up and questioned her about it. She got frustrated because she didn't want Jeremy to be brought up. She, however, exposed herself to contacting Jeremy and wanting to meet him to end on a good terms. Are you freaking serious? This was seriously getting annoying. I explained to her how hurt I am to still see her contacting Jeremy despite what had happened. She explained herself on how she wanted to meet him to end on good terms. Why does this matter? We're not in high school, but we have to see that person ever again. She's treating this like a K-drama or drama show. She begged for my support for her to meet Jeremy ending on good terms forever. I am spoiled, so I couldn't give her what she wanted and what I didn't want. We ended the call on bad terms and I felt disappointed, guilty, and shameful. I didn't understand why I should be the one feeling this way. I've always given what she wanted until this time. I was a good boyfriend. She needed patience for love. She needed support for her mental health and relapse on self-harm. She needed me. She had it all. In return, I got much love and betrayal. I expressed my feelings and emotions more than ever to my friends that have been unknown about my situation. I felt much better. My options given to me were break up with my girlfriend, but I didn't want that. I want to be with her. For the things we have done together and for each other. Hate for it to be a waste, or give each other space, or tell her my emotions and feelings, but more in depth. Easier said than done. I am longing for an answer. I cannot decide for myself anymore. But I also don't have the strength to do anything, as it breaks my heart even more. This is unfair. She makes it unfair. I wanted her to cut absolute ties with them, but they seem to have stalled out my patience. This is disgusting. She makes me feel like a bad person for wanting her and Jeremy separated, making them say goodbye to each other. I'm guilt-tripped. She had the audacity to ask me to hold her hands as she told me about the kiss. I've understood her in the past for her love triangles or love hexagon, but not for this one. Especially when we were in an absolute relationship. I feel incomplete because every time I bring Jeremy up, my girlfriend gets distressed. I would have to stop. I would never get the chance to be honest for myself, to truly show her my perspective. She won't be able to understand what I truly want. All she knows is that I am hurt, and she will hurt herself for it, which makes it worse for me. I will never be honest for myself or to her. A month later, she was released from Pine Rest. I asked if I could talk to her in person of what had happened. I am a spoiled child and I wanted more unknown answers. An argument broke out. She kept explaining me how much she wanted to move on, but it wasn't easy for me. The more I look into what had happened in the past, the more I hated our relationship. I couldn't believe that she had done that to me. I wondered to myself if my love wasn't enough for her, to where she had received any given love from anyone. I hate the fact that she had to be forced out of her ties with a guy because of her family, friends, and me. We all had to make a decision for her. Please help me on what to do. She has a mental illness, and I'm afraid of making her hurt herself anymore.